Now explain the relationship with you and Lil Baby. How did you guys link up originally?
Like, that's my brother. Like, you know, he from his side getting money, I'm from my side getting money. I jump in front of a bullet on God right now.
Oh, somebody shit got shot up. What the fuck? That's what that is? Ooh, God.
Crazy, man. Y'all better realize who your friends are out here, man.
A demise that shook the streets of Atlanta. A death that still haunts one of hip-hop's biggest stars. Lil Marlo wasn't just another rapper. He was Lil Baby's right-hand man, his brother in everything but blood. But on July 11, 2020, that brotherhood was shattered in a hail of bullets. And to this day, the truth behind Marlo's death remains a mystery.
Police say someone shot and killed a man in a single vehicle wreck on the interstate. It happened on I-285 near the Benjamin E. Mays drive overpass, and it was around 11:30 Saturday night.
Who wanted Marlo gone? And why does Lil Baby, one of the most powerful figures in the game, refuse to speak on it? Could it be that he already knows who's responsible? Or is there more to the story than we've been told?
Cause you ain't willing to ride behind that. That's kind of nuts though. Like you let these just knock this off and just say you ain't send no shots settle.
Let's dig deep into the brutal ember still haunting Lil Baby and the secrets the streets won't let out. Rudolph Johnson Jr., aka Lil Marlo or Young Rudy, was born on May 1st, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia. He came up in the Bankhead neighborhood of Atlanta, specifically the Bowen Homes projects, known for being one of the most drug-infested and violent projects in the city. Growing up, Lil Marlo faced the same struggles that a large number of young black kids in inner cities across America face every day. Poverty and a lack of options, mixed with the uncertainty of not knowing where his next meal was coming from, Marlo felt like he only had one way out in order to make money, and that was to hit the streets. As a kid coming up in Bowen Homes, he watched Atlanta legend Shorty Low hold down the projects. He had the money, the women, the flyest cars. He was the epitome of a hood celebrity. Seeing that inspired Marlo. He wanted the same, and when he decided to hit the streets, he was 10 toes down in the trenches. He set out to duplicate the success of his idol, Shorty Low, and began his rise in the streets. Marlo told a story about dealing with hard times as a kid in the projects and how he prayed to God that he would be the chosen one, the one to get his family out of poverty, get to the money, rise to the top of the drug game, and become a West Side legend.
I take a whole side of town. So, you know, when I step over there, I'm God.
Lil Marlo got into the streets at a young age. Even as a kid, people in his neighborhood knew his name. He grew up in Bowen Homes, one of the most dangerous places in Atlanta. But for him, it was home. No matter how rough it was, he had love there. But things didn't stay the same forever. In 2009, after a series of violent incidents, Bowen Homes was torn down. With his childhood home gone, Marlo moved to another tough area, the 9th Ward, also known as Adamsville. It was a place where violence was part of everyday life and shootings happened often. Different gangs controlled the area, especially the Goodfellas mob, GF, and 21 Slaughter Gang, which were said to be linked to the SMN Bloods. A well-known Atlanta street figure, No Plug, was also from this neighborhood. Marlo and his crew were always seen in the 9th Ward hanging out with a young 20 Savage before he became famous. Marlo was affiliated with the Goodfellas mob, a group known for having older members who had been in the streets for years. They took him under their wing and showed him the ropes. But after a while, Marlo and a few younger guys decided to form their own group. They called it PK Huwe Ife, Play for Keeps. Also known as 3L3 Letters or Perk Gang. They ran their operation like a mafia, with different ranks. There were soldiers, capos, and at the top, Marlo was the boss. As his reputation grew, so did his money and power. He finally reached his goal, taking care of his family and running his hood on the west side, just like he had watched Shorty Low do when he was a kid. Now Marlo was in charge. People even started calling him the 9th Ward God. His nickname, Lil Marlo, came from how he carried himself. The older guys he hung around with said he reminded them of a legendary hustler from their projects who was connected to Shorty Low. That guy was also named Marlo. Marlo was just an OG from my hood. They said I moved like him, so the streets just started calling me that. I just went with it, you feel me? As Marlo's name got bigger in the city, he started meeting new people. At first, he mostly stuck to his side of town, only dealing with people from the west side. But as his money grew, so did his network. Eventually, he linked up with another young hustler from a different part of Atlanta, Dominique Jones, better known as Lil Baby, who repped Oakland City on 4PF4 Pockets Full. 4PF had strong ties with the rolling 60s Crips from Los Angeles and was known for making serious money in Atlanta. When Marlo met Lil Baby, they clicked instantly. Over time, they became like brothers. If you saw Baby, you saw Marlo, and vice versa. They were always rolling through the city in luxury cars, pockets full of cash. They were the definition of neighborhood superstars, a well-known duo that had the streets on lock. The respect Marlo had in the streets also connected him with another big name, Rashard Hosley, aka Big Bank, the CEO of Duct Tape Entertainment. Big Bank was a legend from East Atlanta and the founder of Zone 6 Day. He knew how Marlo moved, how he got his money, and how deep he was in the game. But he also saw something else in him, a way out. Big Bank started telling Marlo he should consider rapping. At first, Marlo wasn't trying to hear it. He had never even tried rapping before. That wasn't his thing. He was focused on making money, and he didn't see himself as an artist. But Big Bank saw star potential in him. He told Marlo that the way he carried himself, the lifestyle he was already living, was what most rappers pretended to have in their music. Marlo didn't have to fake it. He was the real deal. As time passed, Marlo got deeper into the streets, and Big Bank kept trying to convince him to leave that life behind and go legit. But Marlo wasn't ready to change. The streets were in his blood. He was addicted to the lifestyle, to the fast money, to everything that came with it.
What was the hardest thing to let go from the streets?
The money.
Big Bank came up with a plan to get Marlo to see that he could have a future as a rapper. He called him and told him that he had some business to handle in East Atlanta and wanted Marlo to roll with him. But as they were driving, Marlo noticed they were pulling up to a studio. He didn't think much of it because he knew Big Bank was into the music world, being the CEO of Duct Tape Entertainment. Once they got inside, Bank told Marlo to pick a beat. Marlo didn't understand why, but he chose the best one he heard. That's when Bank told him, "All right, now go into the booth and lay down a verse over this track." Marlo resisted. He kept telling Bank that he didn't want to rap. But eventually, everyone in the studio convinced him. After listening to the playback of his first verse, he was impressed. He sounded a lot better than he thought he would. He was so excited that he called up Lil Baby and told him he had just made his first song. Lil Baby was surprised because he and Marlo had never talked about becoming rappers. But hearing what his friend had created motivated him. That's when Lil Baby devoted himself to making music and never looked back, becoming a mainstay at the Quality Control studio as early as 2015. A whole year went by before Marlo even thought about rapping again. The streets were treating him well, and he didn't see a reason to switch things up. His gang, PFK, was making moves in the city, and everything seemed to be going in their favor. But things started to change. Law enforcement was cracking down hard on Marlo's home turf, the 9th Ward, because of the heavy substance trade and a rising number of Emders. PFK, 21 Slaughter Gang, and Goodfellas Mob had a strong presence in the Allen Temple housing projects. But it was getting too risky to operate there. In early 2017, rapper Saba B dropped a music video for his song Pull Up With a Stick.
Pull up with a stick.
It was filmed right in the heart of the 9th Ward and quickly went viral because of all the young kids flashing assault rifles in the video. That kind of attention wasn't good. Federal law enforcement took notice, and soon after, the 9th Ward and other housing projects in Atlanta started crumbling. This forced gangs to scatter across the city, leading to new alliances but also new enemies. Meanwhile, Marlo watched his close friend, Lil Baby, start to gain serious traction in the rap game. Lil Baby eventually signed a deal with Quality Control, and since Marlo was tight with him, he began spending a lot of time around QC too. Even though he still wasn't serious about making music, he had potential and would jump on a verse here and there. But for the most part, he still had one foot in music and the other in the streets. That changed one day when he had a conversation with Young Thug at the studio. Thug was one of the biggest rap stars to ever come out of Atlanta, and he saw that Marlo had talent. But he also knew Marlo's street reputation and warned him that if he didn't choose between rap and the streets, things wouldn't end well.
No, Slam just telling me like one day, hey man, listen, Marlo, it's a sacrifice. It's either you want to do that or you want to do that. God ain't gonna let you do both of them.
Marlo admitted later that Young Thug's words stuck with him. He knew he had a decision to make. And besides, his name was starting to pop up in situations he might not have even been involved in. One major situation was the March 4th, 2016 shooting of rising Atlanta rapper Bankroll Fresh. The incident happened outside Street Exec Studios in Atlanta. It started with a fight between Bankroll Fresh and No Plug, who used to be close friends but had a falling out over a woman. That night they got into it, and the argument escalated into a standoff outside the studio. Bankroll Fresh was caught on camera holding an assault rifle, and he fired a shot at the car No Plug was in. In response, multiple shots were fired back, and Bankroll Fresh was hit in the hip, which led to his death. Although the police ruled it self-defense and a justifiable homicide, tension in Atlanta's streets grew. At first, everyone assumed No Plug was the one responsible, especially after his viral DJ Vlad interview where he admitted to the incident.
That I know was my money situation, female situation, and the Ninth Ward situation. Like all them three situations balled up and just go crazy one crazy night. You know what I'm saying? Like.
But then rumors started spreading that Marlo might have been involved, particularly after a video surfaced of 21 Savage, No Plug, and Marlo in a club. In the video, 21 Savage told No Plug to announce that he was the one who offered Bankroll Fresh, and they all started laughing. Some people believed this was proof, while others claimed the real shooter was someone else from the 9th Ward named Lil Blue, a known member of the Rude Unit gang. Marlo also had other street accusations hanging over his head, like allegedly robbing Atlanta rapper Hoodrich Pablo Juan multiple times. The two were cool at one point, but street politics changed everything, and they eventually became enemies. Despite all this, Marlo had a way out through music. Lil Baby saw that potential and convinced QC bosses Pierre P. Thomas and Coach K to sign him. By late 2017, Marlo and Lil Baby dropped their joint album, To the Hard Way. Marlo then followed up with his solo project, The Wild Wire, finally starting to take rap seriously.
Water whip, dope cooking, whipping in the pot.
He dedicated himself to building his fan base, starting in Atlanta and then reaching beyond. He was performing at venues all over, promoting his music and brand. The motivation only grew as he watched Lil Baby go on a legendary run, dropping hit after hit, songs like All of a Sudden with Moneybagg Yo, Freestyle, Southside, and the massive Yes Indeed with Drake.
Yellow Ferrari like Pikachu. I got him waiting and watching what he gon' do. Tryna pee what I do, tryna.
It was clear that Lil Baby was on his way to superstardom, and Marlo was right by his side, repping his crew PFK while Lil Baby held it down for 4PF. Marlo stayed busy in the studio, releasing 2 mixtapes in 2018, 9th Ward God, which paid tribute to his hood, and The Real One, which had the streets buzzing. With QC backing him and his music picking up steam, it seemed like there was no way he could lose. He had moved from doing small Atlanta shows to performing all over the country. His path to success was clear, and he had a legal way to make money and provide for his family. But Marlo never fully let go of the streets. He had always been heavily involved in gang life, and as his money grew, so did PFK's reputation. When the gang first started in 2015, they were known as respected hustlers, but by 2020, they had a reputation for being ruthless, willing to do whatever it took to stay on top. Marlo considered himself the mob boss of PFK, knowing that his position came with both power and enemies. Even though he was making money legally, he still had to stay alert. The streets never forget, and he was always on the lookout for ops. It was a dangerous game, and unfortunately, Marlo was still playing it. Marlo was running the streets like a real bully. He was taking out suppliers, snatching people's work, and putting money on people's heads for even the smallest reasons. This made things heat up fast, and soon, he was at war all over the city. Even the crews he once had alliances with, like 21 Slaughter Gang and GF Goodfellas Mob, ended up on the other side. Marlo used to be with them back in the 9th Ward, but small beefs and street politics got in the way, turning them into enemies. Still, Marlo and his crew, PF, had a few solid allies like henchman 5L. One of their most well-known members was Atlanta rapper Ola Runt. His crew was locked in a violent beef with another gang, Homicide DTE, which had ties to rap superstar Playboy Cardi. Both of these gangs were said to be blood sets, but that didn't stop them from constantly going at each other. PFK was also tight with YFN. the crew led by rapper YFN Lucci. They had a strong connection with the rolling 60s Crips out of Los Angeles and were known for beefing with Young Thug and YSL. This was ironic because early in his career, Young Thug was actually one of Marlo's mentors. The gang scene in Atlanta was a tangled web. But one thing was clear, PFK was against almost everybody. Marlo didn't seem to care though. At this point he felt unstoppable, like nothing could touch him. On July 11th, Marlo was having another good day, enjoying his success both in the streets and in the music industry. That morning, he hit the studio with two fellow QC artists, Bankroll Freddie and Lil Yachty. Later that day, he showed up at a big celebration on the west side called Bankhead Day. Around 11 p.m., he left the event. But just 30 minutes later, Atlanta police got a call about a car crash on the highway near the Benjamin E. Mays Drive overpass. When they got there, they found Lil Marlo shot to death inside his car. Reports say his vehicle was hit with over 100 bullets.
Oh, somebody shit got shot up. What the fuck? That's what that is? Oh, God.
The streets of Atlanta went crazy after Marlo's M there. Everybody wanted to know who could have pulled off such a bold hit. At this point, Marlo had enemies all over the city, so there was no clear answer. But that didn't stop people from throwing around theories. One theory came from George Cheedy, a well-known journalist in Atlanta. He pointed out that before Marlo was offed, his older brother had been accused of an amateur in Brookhaven, a neighborhood just outside Atlanta. The case seemed like an easy win for the state. There was a ton of evidence against Marlo's brother, but something went wrong during the trial. Witnesses disappeared, and the prosecution fumbled the case so badly that the judge had no choice but to dismiss it. Cheedy suspected that whoever Marlo's brother allegedly offed had people who wanted revenge. And since they couldn't find the brother, they went after Marlo instead. Another theory pointed to the ongoing beef between PFK and their old allies in the 9th Ward. One of Marlo's biggest rivals was 21 Slaughter Gang, which was also linked to another enemy of Play for Keeps, Paradise East, also known as PTE. This crew was from East Atlanta and had a reputation for being ruthless. One of their most famous members was rapper Young Nudy, who also happened to be 21 Savage's blood cousin. A rapper signed to Young Nudy's PT label, Baby Drill, made people suspicious when he started rapping about Emders in his songs. On his track, Send Deposit, he mentioned as so needing to buy his artist a bulletproof car and bragged about shooting someone with a .223 rifle. Fans thought he was taking a shot at QC CEO, Pierre P. Thomas, and hinting that he was responsible for Marlo's death. Baby Drill also had a hit song with Young Nudy called Dunstain, where he rapped about catching his first body at 18.
How to use that pistol, caught my first one, I was 18.
Some people believe this was a confession about Marlo's M-Down, but others pointed out that Marlo was offed when Baby Drill was already older than 18, so that theory didn't fully add up. What really made things suspicious, though, was that in 2022, Baby Drill was arrested for allegedly going on a K-ing spree. He was accused of shooting and K-ing a 28-year-old named Grady Scott in Midtown Atlanta, and later that same day, he allegedly offed another man, Quintavious Harris, aka Hardbody Daffy. Harris was a member of GF Goodfellas' mob, one of Marlo's former allies turned enemies. Despite rapping about the Emders in his songs, Baby Drill was only charged with one of them, the K-ing of Grady Scott. The charges for the other K-ings, including Marlo's, never stuck, and Baby Drill eventually walked free. Another possible reason behind Marlo's EM Dare had nothing to do with the streets. It was about a woman. The story goes that a high-ranking member of GF Goodfellas named C.O. Nuke started messing around with one of Marlo's baby mamas. Even though Marlo wasn't with her at the time, he still felt like it was a sign of disrespect. Since Marlo had a reputation for putting money on his enemies' heads, people believe he had C.O. Nuke taken out. After Nuke's death, a new subset of GF Goodfellas was formed called Nuke Unit, dedicated to avenging him. Some believe that Marlo's death was their way of getting back at him. The final theory about Marlo's M-Dare is the most complicated one. Some say his death wasn't about street beef or revenge. It was a hit set up by higher-ups in the industry. Marlo was becoming a rising star in music, and in Atlanta's Atlanta, the music scene and the streets are closely tied together. Some people believe that his M-Dare was part of a bigger plan, something way beyond gang politics. To this day, Marlo's M-Dare remains unsolved. The streets have their theories, but nobody knows for sure who pulled the trigger. What's clear is that Marlo had made a lot of enemies in his short time in the game, and in the world he lived in, that kind of life often ends in tragedy. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye!